Hello, welcome to XClam Chess. In this video, I'm going to be analyzing a game that was submitted to me by a user on chess.com. His username is AnhVanT, if I pronounced that right. With usernames I never really can tell, so I can just hope that I'm saying that correctly. Okay, and his rating is about 1150, to give you an idea of his playing strength. Okay, and so now let's go through, let's analyze this game. So e4, d5, center counter, e takes d5, and queen takes d5. So the downside to bringing out the queen this early is that white can now develop his pieces while attacking the queen and get some free development. Because now, instead of bringing out one of his pieces, now black's going to have to move his queen again. The upside to this move, though, is that black does get to knock out white's center pawn and can sometimes lower the control of the center that white can get. Okay, queen to e5 check, bishop to e2, and so now white gets another piece off the back row, blocking the check. Knight to f6, and knight to f3, and now another 3 tempo, attacking the queen while developing a piece. It's a good call. Queen to d6, d4, now letting out this bishop, and controlling the center with this d-pawn. Knight c6, bishop g5, and now white has gotten all of his minor pieces off of the back row at this point. Meanwhile, black still has a few to go. h6, bishop to h4, and bishop g4 is played. And now white goes ahead and castles. This is a good call because this is one of the other things that needs to be done in the opening. Get your pieces out, control the center, castle your king to safety. Okay, so bishop takes f3, and bishop takes f3. So this move gives white the bishop pair. And usually when a center is somewhat open, like this center with these open squares, and there's lots of open diagonals for the bishops to use, usually 2 bishops can be better than 2 knights. I think that maybe the reason why this was played was to try to remove the defender of the d-pawn so that he can capture it. But capturing this pawn really doesn't end up so well for black, because if the queen takes, this would easily fail to bishop takes c6, and then black's losing the queen. The other alternative would be knight takes d4. But after bishop takes b7, the position starts to get pretty complicated. And with white's bishop pair in the open center, I feel that the complication of the position would favor white. Okay, so let's go back to the game. After bishop takes f3, we have castling queenside by black. Bishop g3, attacking the queen again. And queen takes d4. After bishop takes c6, b takes c6 is played here. And one thing that I would have considered, though, is maybe exchanging queens here. And after bishop takes b7, king takes b7, rook takes d1, black would give back the pawn, but the queens would be exchanged. And I think that might make position for black a little bit easier to deal with, because the exposed state of the king won't matter so much if queens aren't on the board. But if we go and we take a look at the move played after b takes c6, now with opposite side castling, queen still on the board, and black's king looking kind of weak and exposed, I don't think that it would be very fun to play as black. And with opposite side castling as well, it becomes easy to start attacks on the king, because usually you can push your pawns, start a pawn storm, and games can get really aggressive. Okay, queen to b6, knight a4, queen to b7, knight c5, and this knight has a nice little square here on c5. Queen to b5, b4, and knight d5. And here white plays pawn to a4. And yeah, this is exactly what I was talking about. Getting your pawns, marching them forward, and trying to run them up the board towards your opponent's king. That's a lot of times what can happen, and if the pawn structure's been mangled a little bit, it can be easier to march your pawns forward. One thing I may have considered is, since this knight is no longer on f6, this queen has a straight shot to f7 and could just go ahead and clip this pawn. Me being pretty greedy, I would be tempted to just go ahead and take that. And then also, maybe my knight can come in to e6, get a nice home for him right here. This is probably a little bit better even than being on c5, so I would like to see him get there, and then have him well posted there on that square. Okay, so now back to the game. Queen captures b4, knight to a6, queen e2, e6, rook f to b1, getting this rook into the game. It was just sitting here lazy on f1. Now it's controlling a nice open file. So it's important to get all of your pieces involved. And if you're trying to attack a weak king, it's very important to make sure all of your pieces are working towards that goal. So I like that move. Okay, queen to d4, rook b8 check. And right here I'm starting to like white's position a lot, because this king running around, and yeah, it's not good to have your king moving around. You usually want him to be sitting or somewhere during the middle of the game, safe in a corner, like white's king. Rook d1, attacking the queen and lining it up on this d file. Okay, queen takes a4, and rook takes d5 check is played. So this move, the player had written in that this move was not meant to be played at all. This was just a slip with the mouse. Like, he didn't even mean to play this move at all, because this really actually isn't a very good move at all. It's just losing the exchange for the knight. Yeah, so yeah, that's very unfortunate for white, because he has a pretty good position right here. But then unfortunately that one slip with the mouse ruined his entire game. But other than that, this whole game he's played pretty well. But after rook takes d5, here the game ends. So there are some good points that we can learn from this game, from the way that he developed his pieces and using attacks on his opponent's queen to get his pieces out with tempo, That allowed him to get a lead in development, and then he was able to put his opponent in pressure based on that lead in development he had. And so he was getting all of his pieces out, getting control of the center, getting his king castled, and meanwhile Black was showing that he knew how the queen moved. And so that's something that we can learn from this game. Keep your queen back, and then your opponent won't be able to take advantage of the queen coming out early and get free development. Okay, so thank you for watching this game, and thank you to the player who submitted this game. Okay, that's all for this video. Thanks for watching.